There was a gentleman who worked for a company that transported frozen food from city to city to city within India. And this was back in the day when we had steam engines, not electrical trains like now. And he's in Madras, which is now Chennai. And he's in the compartment. And he's checking to make sure everything is there. The paneer, the rice, the yogurt, all of that. And everything is there, everything's fine. And he turns around to leave, but the door is stuck. So he's pulling on this door, but it's not budging. So he tries to find something to pry it open. These are heavy doors. And the train is about to begin, to start. So he starts banging on the door, trying to get someone's attention. But the train had started and left. And it left Madras and arrived in Delhi. And the company that's expecting that food, they open the compartment from the outside, and they see this man shivering on the floor, literally turning blue, like some of the clothing that people are wearing. They call the ambulance and take him away, and they also have to call the police because they think maybe someone did this on purpose. And the inspectors are on that compartment studying fingerprints, foul play, etc., etc. And one inspector tells everyone to stop. They all ask why. Why should we stop this investigation? Because this man didn't freeze because of the cold temperature. The refrigeration is not working. He projected that this would be his fate, and so his body simply followed suit. This is an example of the powerful saying, "As you think, so you become." And we sometimes think that this is a story, but this is not a story. This is about us. This is our story. And we can take it from the refrigerated compartment to death. There's a famous incident in the Mahabharata where a great thinker, his name is Yudhishthira, is asked questions. And one of the questions is, what is the greatest wonderment that people experience while living? And he reflected and then shared that all around us we see death. But no one believes that this will apply to them. We see old people dying, we see young people dying, we see healthy people dying, we see unhealthy people dying, but none of us puts ourselves in that scenario. So this story about this man, the question about death, these are not stories. I say that for conversation's sake, but this is our story. And in our story, we are often paralyzed. We're paralyzed at the thought of growing old. This is why people don't like celebrating their birthdays after 25. And even if they're 35, they'll say something younger. And the older you get, then the less. I work with one woman whose birthday I knew, and the day she turned 65, she said, "Don't tell anyone." I was like, "Great, you collect CPP now. This is an ideal day." But she didn't want people to know. We are paralyzed by the fear of not being able to maintain our present lifestyle. The car we drive, the food we eat, the way we socialize with people. What will happen in the future? We are paralyzed by others not believing in our ideas, in our ideals. How much do we invest in makeup? Like I said, we have this fear of growing old. How much do we invest in makeup, in trying to make ourselves stay young when that's just not possible? How much do we invest in working so I can maintain this lifestyle? I read a beautiful quote that said, it was a reinterpretation of the recycling sign. Reduce, reuse, recycle. This one said, want less, work less, live more. But I want this lifestyle, so I have to work for this lifestyle. And what gets lost? Life. I have a lifestyle, but not a life. How much do we invest in converting others to our ideas. This is strongly seen in people who use Apple products. I find that all Apple product users are they're converters. They're always trying to convert people who use PCs into Macs and Samsung phones into iPhones and so on. And we invest in that. Fear is a thief. And this thief we've allowed into our home. We've actually not even allowed it. We've encouraged this thief to come to our home. Where is home? It's not where this body is. It's not an address. Our home is the mind. Fear manifests in the mind, like I had shared about this gentleman on the train. And whatever the software says to do, the hardware will just function. The hardware is not independent. If the software has a virus, the hardware will be loco. If the software is running fine, the hardware will just perform those functions. I highlight again that we've allowed this thief into our home because no experience is intrinsically fearful. Social scientists say the two greatest fears we have are death, and what's number two? Public speaking. But some people love public speaking. You can't take the mic away from them. Some people hate it. You can't give the mic to them. Some people love traveling to expand their comfort zone. Some people can't stand the thought of even driving to Niagara Falls or Barrie or wherever it may be. So public speaking, traveling, etc., they're not intrinsically fearful. It is not the house that is fearful, it's the home that is fearful. This is best conveyed through Mahabharata. This ancient yet applicable scripture. And Mahabharata, what is shared about this is that if it's not in the Mahabharata, it's not in life then. That's how wide and deep this scripture is. So I'm going to pull a specific incident, which many of you know about, just to give context. Prince Arjuna, his brothers, his wife, his mother, they're all exiled from a community. It's no different than, like I said, applicable. Isn't that what's happening between Russia and Ukraine right now? One is exiled from the other. So this family is exiled from their home. And they return, and they ask the people who had exiled them, which is their own family. Often that's the case, isn't it? Can we have our kingdom back because we are rightfully the owners of this kingdom, the leaders of this kingdom? And the wicked family says, no. Fine, give us half. We're not in this for the kingdom. We just like to enact this policy. Give us half. No. Give us 5 villages, one for each of the brothers. No. Give us 1 village with 5 homes. No. Give us 1 home with 5 rooms. No. I will not give you as much space as at the top of a pen. Balavir students are great. They pay a lot of attention. After I stop here, they say, then did they ask for 1 room with 5 beds? And this really planted that seed in these 5 brothers who are righteous, who are noble, that we need to do something about this, because if these people rule the kingdom, then all of the people in the kingdom will be like this too. So we need to end this. And they went through all diplomacy, but still they couldn't do it. So naturally, war was the option. Some people misinterpret this message that's saying, violence is encouraged. But think, if I have a weapon in my hand and this gentleman's a police officer, the first thing he's going to say is put your weapon down. And if I don't follow, what is he going to do? He's going to physically take that weapon out of my hand, whether it's through his hand or another weapon. See the practicality of it. You try diplomacy, if it doesn't work, you go further for the sake of survival. And his eldest brother Yudhishthira says, no, we shouldn't go for this. Let's just leave. But Prince Arjuna says, no, we need to follow through with this. So what is arranged is millions of warriors. Grandfathers, grandsons, cousins, neighbors, everyone. And Prince Arjuna is the most qualified out of all of them. Millions on both sides. And he tells this charioteer, put my chariot between both armies. No man's land, no person's land. I want to see who I'm fighting against. I want to see who I'm fighting with. And I want to remind all of you that he reminded his brother that we can't stand down from this. His brother said, let's leave. Prince Arjuna says, no, we cannot leave. And when he sees this challenge, this warrior who picked up his bow just to talk to his charioteer, that bow slips from his hand. His skin starts burning. He starts seeing omens. He sits down. He tells that same charioteer, not only will I not fight, I will not speak. That's what this challenge did to this confidence. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and though he's physically blind, what it shows is that he's mentally blind, says, what happened? Kima kurvata, on this battlefield. And we slip over that. He's asking in past tense, because what happened on that battlefield is incidental. What is happening now is what the focus should be. And so that is our day-to-day affairs. We all face challenges. From the oldest person here to the youngest person here, we all face challenges. And that challenge turns into a problem when fear comes in. If there's no fear, that challenge is not a problem. It's great. Like exercising. There's no fear there. It makes me stronger. But when fear comes in, that challenge devolves into a problem. You and I all face this, and it began with fear. Pujya Swami Tejomayananda has shared that the first seed to samsara, samsara means illusion. Samsara means being lost in change. Samsara is all that is negative. He says the first seed is fear. Fear then devolves into sorrow. Sorrow then devolves into delusion. And I'll give you an example of that. Yesterday I had to drive by Wonderland. It's called Canada's Wonderland, but someone else bought it now. I think Scotia owns it or whatever it is. If you go on Wildebeest or the Vortex or any of those roller coasters, if the roller coaster is 60 seconds long, 60 seconds, how many of you would like to go on that roller coaster if it's 60 seconds long, by show of hands? Whoa, really scared group. If it was 6 minutes long, how many of you would like to go on? Now a few liars in the room. If it's 60 minutes long, 60 minutes, not seconds, how many of you would like to go on? See, fear is the same way. If it comes and goes, sure, it's fun. But if it stays longer, imagine you're on that roller coaster for 6 minutes. Physically and mentally, I feel very upset. If you're on there for 60 minutes, you're probably going to have to go to the hospital. Be completely delusional. And we get it when it comes to such physical experiences. But as I mentioned, fear is not physical, fear is mental. This fear manifests in our day-to-day affairs in the form of cleaning. Often we have a dinner party, let's say, or a function at the center, and the next morning when we wake up, and there's all of those plates, all of that garbage that needs to be taken out, all of the vacuuming that needs to be done, isn't there fear? And what do we do with that fear? Then it turns into sorrow. Oh, why do I have to do this? Then it turns into delusion. We don't do anything. We go for coffee. Emails is the same way. On Monday, we will all check into our emails and we'll be afraid how many emails came up over the weekend on that Friday. Then we'll sign in and it'll say 150 or 75 or whatever. Sorrow. So then what will we do? Sign out. Go for coffee. Delusion. Does the cleaning take place? Do the emails take place? Fear is the experience of all of us. And that's why there's so many people here. So many people that have never been to this building. I'm curious to know, how many of you, this is the first time that you're coming to this building? Right? That shows how universal of a disease, of a thief, fear is. This morning, we are going to explore fear, drop it. And I wanted to introduce the subject the way I did. When there is no fear, there will not be sorrow, there will not be delusion. In a Sanskrit way, if there's no bhaya, then there is no samsara. If you don't have the seed, then the tree can't be there. So we can change our lives immediately and drastically if we can just expel this thief that we have invited to our personality. So let's take it from that perspective. Let's take it from what would happen if an actual thief or problem came to our physical home. Okay? And we're going to use this example, but remember, it's inside. We have till approximately 12:30 together, and there's a half-hour break within that. We're going to have 3 sessions of philosophy and 3 sessions of practice, and we're going to alternate like that. Because if we just have too much philosophy, we are unable to absorb that. And if it's too much practice, what are we supposed to practice? So we will keep alternating like that. Philosophy, practice, etc. So we're in our first philosophy portion, and what I'm trying to do is introduce the subject. So I'll carry on with this a little bit more, and then we'll get into a practice. Whenever there's a problem at home, we go through a process to fix that problem. And that process is, I see the symptoms, then I seek out the source, then I seek out a solution. Symptoms, source, solution. Think about in your home or apartment, wherever, if you see a stain in your roof, that's a symptom. There's a leak there. If there's a puddle on the floor. So then I go to the source. Is it coming from my toilet? Is it coming from a broken pipe? Is it coming from an HVAC unit? Then I go to the solution. I have to cut out the pipe. I have to call a technician, and whatever it is. Symptom, source, solution. And there is a problem in our home as well, that is the mind. So we're going to go through the same process of symptoms, source, and solution. The only difference, when there's a physical problem, you need a physical solution. When there's a subtle problem, we need a subtle solution. If my hands are dirty, it's very easy. I walk to the bathroom and soap them up and wash them. But if I'm angry, if I'm jealous, if I'm afraid, is it that easy to just wash one's hands? And that's why many people say, take cold showers, count to 10, walk away. Those are all physical. How will that help my mental illness, my mental disease, my mental thief? We need such subtle solutions. So let's begin with the symptoms of fear. And I'm going to highlight some of them, but there's many, many, many symptoms of fear. One of them is that we can't sleep at night. And I mean sheerly because of darkness or being alone. When I was younger, we had a TV that had a timer on it. And I never understood, why is there a timer on this TV? And then I met a friend who said, and she's a university graduate, a professional. She cannot sleep unless the TV is on. And so she sets her timer for 90 minutes and then lies down in bed, and that's the only way she can go to sleep. Some of us are like that with driving. We can't drive without the radio on. There's just that fear. I become aware of that thief. Like Swamiji had shared, I drive a lot, almost 800 kilometers a week to get to the various cities that I get to go to. So I listen to a lot of NPR. It's one of my teachers. So there's a report on NPR that said, the low point of the week for a typical male is, what is the low point of the week for a typical male? And don't say right now. Generally, the low point of the week for a typical male is Monday morning. And what's fascinating about this, let's say it's because of work, not even school. If I start working when I'm 30 and I finish when I'm 60, that's 50 Mondays that will come every year for 30 years. That is 1,500 Mondays that I'm going to face. And that's 1,500 times when I'm driving to work, this single tear trickles down my cheek. When I know I have to go there. And it would be much more fearful if I didn't work. But here I am succumbing to that fear. And with females, what is the low point of the week for a typical female? Friday evenings. Friday evenings because one has worked all week and now is tending to the responsibilities at home too, and it causes fear, the amount of tending that needs to take place. So again, that's not just those 30 years. That's going to start with 20 to 100. 4,000 times this is going to come. See the symptom. Fear, the symptom of fear is that we cannot relax. We just don't know how to sit still. We don't know how to not speak. In the story I just told you about Prince Arjuna, his counterpart, Duryodhana, he's speaking to his teachers, to the king, like an immature fool. But he's so scared, he just keeps talking. And isn't that what we do during movies? We keep talking, hey, you know, what's going to happen next? It's because we don't want to pay attention. Or talking to someone when it's dark. Overall, what these symptoms do is they make us inefficient. Think about not being able to sleep at night. Who has time to waste? None of us do. Inefficient with our checking our emails, cooking, cleaning. Inefficient with just relaxing. How many of you, by show of hands, take 0 to 15 minutes to wake up in the morning? 15 to 30? 30 to 45? 45 to 60? Over 60? See, the hands slowly didn't go up as high. Over 60? Yeah, me. And that shows we know it's inefficient. You know, the 0 to 15s were like this. Yeah, that's us. It's efficient. But less than that, that inefficiency. And I'm just trying to make this more real. If you do this 6 times a week, it takes you an hour instead of 15 minutes. That's 6 hours a week. That's 300 hours a year. That is just me being inefficient. And if that was in the workplace, they would have cut that out right away. This is a waste. We are going to fire you. We are going to change this process. But we're doing it to ourselves constantly and often justifying this. Fear makes us inefficient. Fear makes us ineffective as well. Inefficient is wasteful. Ineffective is a different form of being wasteful. Have you ever had a meal when you were afraid of what was going to happen tomorrow, afraid of meeting someone, that someone's going to be there in a little while, so you just quickly eat in and leave, and you keep looking back to see if that person is there? Is that a high quality meal? Does it taste good? So it's ineffective then. And fundamentally, fear makes us unhappy. Have you ever met someone that said, I'm so scared right now, and they have a big smile on their face? There's an awesome example of this in Kung Fu Panda. Solid movie. So Master Shifu, who's a master but student, he goes to Master Oogway and says, Master Oogway, I have bad news for you. Tai Lung has escaped. And Master Oogway absorbs this and says, there's no good news or bad news, there's only news. And he still has the same smile on his face as before that news and after that news. But Master Shifu, you can see the fear, and so it causes him to be unhappy. There are so many symptoms to fear And I want us to keep thinking about these, because the more aware we are of the symptoms, that will be the catalyst to move to the source. But if I'm not aware of the symptoms, I'm not going to go to the source. I'll put this differently. If I don't know that the next cigarette that I smoke, as an example, like lots of new people here, if I don't know that the next cigarette I smoke will kill me, then I'm going to smoke the next cigarette. But I'm fully aware that cigarettes are cancerous to my tongue, to my mouth, to my lungs, then I'm not going to, or I'm going to try not to, pick up that cigarette. And perhaps we've learned to live with fear. We believe it's normal to be afraid. I feel that many of us have now built stress into our lives. Once you're at school, you have to be stressed. Once you're in a relationship, you have to be stressed. But if stress was normal, it'd be good for my heart. It'd be good for my peace of mind. But since when has stress been a catalyst to one's health? See, it's not normal. In the same way, fear isn't either. This is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to be fully aware of these symptoms to take us to the next level, which is the source. Taking corruption as an example, the whole world is becoming more and more aware of the corruption that is manifesting in all nations, but it was always there. We're just becoming more and more aware of it in our various nations. So people are doing something about it. They're voting for other parties. They want different organizations to monitor this corruption. But if we don't know there's corruption taking place, that money keeps being inefficient, it keeps being ineffective, it causes unhappiness. We suffer. Go deep into what fear is doing to you. Don't look at the next person and saying it's causing this for them. There's a lot of families here, and when I speak to families, I share a message, and then I see the parents saying to the kids, hey, he's talking to you, make sure you write this down, make sure you practice this. We had just completed a great retreat in Pittsburgh last weekend called Understanding Marriage, the Joy of Change. And I was watching as the thoughts were shared, and the husband's hitting the wife. That message is for you. Where the wife is saying, hey, you should start practicing this. No one was writing it, oh, I should practice this. The same thing goes with quotes. We find cool quotes and then email it to people instead of writing it down so we can practice. Once an attorney, a priest, and an engineer, they all had committed a crime wrongly. And they didn't commit the crime, meaning they were accused of a crime wrongly. And they were all to be beheaded. And that was their sentence. And the code of beheadings, not that I know this, is that if the blade doesn't work the first time, then you have free pardon from that. So naturally the attorney goes first. And his head is in this guillotine, is that what it's called? And you have to pull your own rope too. So he pulls on the rope, but it's stuck, so it doesn't fall down. And the attorney takes his thing off and he runs away. I'm free, this didn't work. He knows all about policy. The priest goes next, and he's there, and he pulls, but again, the rope is stuck. It's not working. So he takes off his mask and says, praise be the Lord, I'm free, I'm saved. Now the engineer, he's about to put his head into this, but he says, first let me fix this rope, and then I'll pull. See, the engineer went to the source and got himself into problems, but we won't. If we go to the source, we'll get ourselves out of problems. Okay.